Well, that movie kicked the crap out of me. Well, Raid 2. Go see it. That's the short of it. I won't even have too much to say about it. But I do want to say, the first Raid, in case you haven't heard of it, this little Indonesian action movie that came out, didn't get a whole lot of buzz, like promotion stuff coming up to it, but when it came out and people saw it, they're like, why haven't I heard of this before? Like, it's just very simple. There's a crime lord, kind of lower tier but still dangerous, who rents out an old abandoned apartment building to criminals. So it's literally an entire apartment building full of criminals. And I don't know what the Indonesian version of a SWAT team would be, but the main character is part of that. Their SWAT team, and they just go in and they raid the building. That's it. In the first, it's like an hour and 15-minute movie, and in the first 10 minutes, main character set up. We know who the bad guy is, and we know what we got to do to get rid of him. The stage is set, and the rest of the movie is just like a no holds barred, exhilarating, breakneck, awesome action flick. It's a good example of how an action movie can still be well done. It doesn't have to be like a stupid what a lot of people think action movies are, like Schwarzenegger and cheesy 90s type things. Not all action movies have to be that way. They can actually have some craftsmanship put into them. And the choreography of the action, the way the camera moves, the use of lighting and the tension, it's all awesome. And it's just this little thing that just came out of nowhere, and everybody really liked it. And now we have the sequel, the Raid 2. And it's not the same thing at all. It's totally different. The first one was just a compact, short little movie, very simple goal. A lot of people liken it to Dread because it's a similar kind of setup, and it's very simple, and it just kind of lets itself play out from there. The Raid 2 though is it's much more about characters. It's much more about plot. As we were walking out, my friend Austin likened it to being The Departed, like a action kung fu version of The Departed, and it's not kung fu, but I get what he meant. You know what he meant. It's very much honestly it picks up about 2 hours after the end of the first one, and the main character now is going undercover to try and weed out corrupt cops in the system. Of course things don't go as planned, and because it's an undercover story, there is so much more going on. There's so much more heart put into it that the Cinema Snob mentioned that you get the feeling that they would have made this movie even if the first one didn't do all that well. And he's got a point, because as it turns out, this movie, The Raid 2, was the original movie they wanted to make in the first place. But when they had budget problems and planning and all these things came up, so they went and they made The Raid to kind of set up the one they wanted to make. That way that movie could get them a little bit of money coming in, and then they could put that towards the original movie they wanted to make, what we now know as The Raid 2. So in a weird way, The Raid was the prequel, if that makes sense. But yeah, they totally, you can tell this was and I don't want to talk up the character stuff like it's not an action movie, because it very much is. The action in this is so well done. It's honestly I don't want to liken it to an art form, but the amount of care and attention that they put into the action sequences. In the first movie, it was all hand-to-hand stuff, but in this, they upped the game. Not just in character, but they upped the game in the action too. Car stunts, on foot, chase scenes. They've got gunfights, all kinds of crazy mayhem going on, and they tackle each one with the same amount of tenacity that they did in the first one with the martial arts hand-to-hand stuff. And it's fucking brutal. Like, I lost count of how many times that someone in the movie made someone's limb bend in a way that God did not intend for that to bend. Especially the elbows and knees. This is not a movie for the lighthearted at all. There's a lot of wincing and, oh god, like, just, you're sitting in your seat and you have to, it evokes a verbal response out of you. That's how you know you're watching a good action scene, is when you're going like, and you know, you're talking back with the movie. I will say a couple of times they go a little too far. Like, you can tell that they're really trying to up the ante of the action, and it works. It totally does. But sometimes, once or twice, I literally mean once or twice, they try a little too hard. At least in my opinion, both of those times revolved around the same character. He didn't have a name. He just he was just in a hoodie and he used a baseball bat. I think he's in the trailer. He didn't have a name. I called him Little Slugger because that's just what I saw when I looked at him. He drags the baseball bat around and all that stuff. It's his weapon of choice, and that's fine. There's a moment later on though when he takes out a baseball to fight a guy with, and I won't spoil it, but that's when it got a little comic booky. That's when I started to feel like I was watching Kick-Ass or something like that. Like, it was some wannabe hero that came up with like, oh, my power is hitting a baseball. Like, it felt a little forced. Other than that, I mean, I'm seriously nitpicking the nitpicking at this point. There's a scene in here, there's a hammer fight scene. I didn't think I'd see something that beats Old Boy's hammer scene, but by God, Raid 2 manages to pull it off. I'm trying to think of anything else that I can say about it. All I can really comment on is just how I appreciate that this is an honest and true sequel. It doesn't just do the same thing over again, which a lot of sequels do. And in this case, with the Raid, I would have still been happy if I had just gotten no, you know what, I take it back. Now that I say that out loud, if I had sat down to watch this and they were like, oh, we have to raid another building, and it's the exact same thing, I would have been pretty disappointed because that's lazy. I'm glad that this expanded. I'm glad that's what a sequel should do. Take everything that was set up in the first movie and expand on that. Give your character something to do, but at the same time staying true to, kind of what people liked about the first one. And very much so, they know what you like with these movies. They know what made them such a hit, and they keep that in there. In fact, they add on to it. There's one scene in particular when the main bad guy's son is negotiating a business deal, and while he's kind of just not nonchalantly talking along as he's slitting people's throats, and he's seriously doing it with the same amount with the same mannerism that co-workers might if they were photocopying something and having a conversation. It was no different to him, and it's chilling. I'm probably just gonna end up going in circles here, so I'm gonna wrap things up. I'm saying that the Raid 2 is probably gonna be the best action movie we see all year. And yes, I know we've got X-Men coming out, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy coming out. You know what? Those look really good. I'm anxious to see them because I think that they'll be good, and I hope that they are good. But you know what? I can already tell you those movies are going to be really CG heavy, and action, in terms of an action movie, nothing beats having live performers actually hitting each other with good choreography and a guy behind the camera that knows what he's doing. I would take that every single time over something like Advent Children or Transformers or something like that. Sure, there is a lot of action in those, but it's born from a computer, and that's to me is not as exciting as seeing just two guys, or there's plenty of girls getting fucked up in this movie too. Just seeing two people one-on-one going at it with, again, good choreography, good directing, editing. Here I am. I'm going in circles because I can't praise this movie enough. Honestly, I'll probably go out and see this again. I don't even have like a local theater playing it. I had to go out down to our mall, which is a good about 30 minutes away. But I would totally still go see this again. I will say that you probably need to see the first one for this one to make sense, because again, it picks up a couple hours after the first one ended. But any excuse to go watch the first one, really. Can't recommend it enough. Just go see it. Do yourself a favor. Go see these movies. I hope they make a third one. I would kind of want it to stop there, but these are going to be movies that go down in history. Honestly, honestly, I can't praise it enough. I'm done. Just go see them, and then we can talk. You can come talk to me about it on my Twitter or something like that later. All right, I'll see you guys next time. God, that was a good.